And we are recording. So, hey, David Weiss. I'm here with David Weiss, and I'm honestly so excited about this interview because I've been looking forward to this, and I've been trying to wrap my head around this for so long. I know the world we live in, the matrix we live in, is a complete and utter lie. I understand that. So it takes me. This could be the most important lie that was fed to us by the powers that be. Am I correct in saying that this could be the most important lie that they've hidden?
That's the number one thing I say, that this lie is the one that matters. I used to have a podcast called Deep Inside the Rabbit Hole, where we woke people up to all of the major deceptions, the one that happened in New York, Connecticut, Boston, and I figured if I wake people up to those things, they'll wake up. And the problem is people woke up, those things are easily provable, and then they would just go back to sleep. They go back to work, and they would forget about it, which is just unbelievable to me. But then the flat earth was thrown at me, and I wouldn't watch a 1 minute video. I just refused to even consider it. It's the dumbest thing ever. Don't waste my time. I banned people from my social media. Yeah. And then when I discovered it, we're going to get into it. And for those of you that are freaking out right now, think this is the dumbest thing ever, hang on there. I got a challenge for you, and I guarantee it'll change your life.
Yeah, listen, I'm very open-minded. I've never been out of space. I've never looked down, so I don't know. I can't say. Every time I've been in an airplane, I try to look for the curvature. I can't find it. I know that the curvature's been debunked. Am I correct in saying that?
There is no curvature. I mean,
that's what I'm saying. There's none.
Right. There's none, except things in the distance will disappear from the bottom up under certain conditions. But
you can bring it up with the telescope, correct?
Most of the time, but other times there's reasons that you can't. Atmospheric obfuscation, waves, trees, landlines. You don't realize that something a millimeter above your eye line will block out an entire city. Okay,
gotcha.
In the distance.
So let me ask you this, David. How long have you been a flat earther? Like, how long is this, and how long of a journey was it for you to actually submit into this belief? And how long did it take you? How long have you been a flat earther, and how long did it take you to arise to this belief?
It's been about 5 or 6 years. I've lost count. Maybe it's a little longer. But when I first heard about it, as I was saying, I refused to look. I wouldn't consider it. And then, another prominent researcher said, "Hey, Dave, you got to look at this." And I looked. I said, "That's it. I'm just going to prove the globe. Forget about disproving flat Earth. I'm just going to prove the globe." And after endless research for 2 weeks, nonstop, day and night, I came out the other side like, "Oh, geez, oh my God." Yeah. And then I didn't bring it up on the podcast for months because I didn't want to discredit all the other good work that we had done. And then,
that's the thing. That's the thing, Dave, is that it can discredit you immediately. I mean, for me, even talking about it with my audience, I got hundreds of emails, and most of them were, "I can't believe you're doing this interview. This is absurd." I mean, the backlash was intense. It was crazy. I mean, they all said the same thing. And there was a few people that were on board with the flat earth, but then they get hammered on my comments. They get hammered.
Well, you're jumping in. You're jumping in. The waters have already been warmed. They were Arctic cold when I started. But big shows like the SGT Report, Owen Benjamin, Veritas Radio, many other big shows, they're all on board. They've got it. They've had me on. They've had others on. They've had Marty Leeds on. They've had Jaronism on. These are we've shown them there's something to see here. And the people say, "Well, show me a model." The model of the flat Earth is difficult, and I'm going to show you what it looks like. But what we all know, we may have different agreements. What's above us, what's beyond Antarctica, but we all know that it's not a spinning ball, because once you understand the globe lie, you can't. You wonder how you ever believed it before.
I don't really feel we live on a globe. I feel like it could be, in my comprehension, the way I understand it, I feel like it could be more obtuse and more around the equator, more obtuse. Do you get what I'm saying? Well, I just have a hard time of grasping the flat Earth. I mean, when I look into this telescope, I see round planets.
Yeah. Well, see, that again is mind programming right there. So the only thing we can truthfully say about the lights that we see in the sky is that they're lights. We don't know how far they are, how big they are. When we look up at Mars, which is in the night sky at the time of this recording, We don't know if it's the size of a basketball or 100 miles or 1,000 miles or wide, or we don't know anything because we don't know the distance. All we see is a light brighter than any other star. It's supposed to be a dusty, dirty ball millions and millions of miles farther from the sun than we are, and reflecting light back to us as brighter than a star. None of that makes any sense.
No, that doesn't. And I'll agree with you on that. I've always wondered that. How do the planets shine brighter than the stars?
Yeah.
And that makes no sense to me. That doesn't. Right there.
The only images of planets that we have are from NASA and Disney. And NASA even admits they have no images of Earth. If you look at this image right here, this is the blue marble that was on everyone's cell phone. And if you look, there's Photoshop clouds. You know, they're using the same.
They're like
clouds.
a repeated pattern.
Yeah, repeated patterns. These are the official, semi-official images of Earth. Let me get out of the way a little bit. They're all cartoons. You have to believe.
Well, it's a perfectly round sphere. That's what I see.
Yeah.
And I see kind of imitation, like multiple. It looks like the clouds almost have a repeated in certain parts of it. And so you're saying these are all CGI?
NASA admits they have no photos of Earth. Robert Simmons, the artist at NASA, told how he made the blue marble, how he did it in Photoshop, and he added clouds and added colors, and he just did it from data. They admit they have no photos, and they never say when they show us a photo, like the latest image of of Pluto is this. Look at Pluto right here. That looks like an outline of Pluto, the Disney dog. All right, Pluto, the Disney dog, and Pluto, the planet were created and discovered in the same year. That's just a coincidence, right? This is an image from NASA. They won't call it a photo. They say they have pictures and images, right? And this was taken by the Cassini spacecraft. I'm not sure what it was, traveling like 60,000 miles an hour past it. And it was able to get this crisp, clear image, but it's not able to get one, excuse me, of Earth. Here's a 2016 and a 2014 image of Jupiter. Now, Jupiter, we're told, is a gas planet with that crazy storm.
And you can go on the NASA site and see these, or where can you?
Yeah, these are from NASA site. They said they caught this crazy aurora. Look at that. I mean, an amateur that used Photoshop for 5 minutes could do that.
It looks fake.
But look at this. If you lay those over each other and you make one transparent and fade the transparency in and out, every single thing is the same. This little storm right here, it's the same over there.
Absolutely.
And those are over 2 years apart. Okay. So right there, that shows you NASA is faking photos of planets. Unwind that all the way, and you're like, okay, NASA's not to be trusted. What's next? I mean, here's two images from NASA on their website of the United States. Look how big the United States is in this one, right? And that one is, here's the United States in the first one. It's right here. But if I tip that back, it gets smaller because I'm tipping it back, right? This one's tipped back and it's bigger. Okay. And you have to then assume that
too many discrepancies right there. That's just ridiculous.
Right. And then if you look at this here, I got to get out of the way. There's the 2012 image. All of those other continents are on the backside of that ball.
Gotcha.
Does that sink in?
Right.
Does that make any sense to you? I mean, so this doesn't prove the Earth is flat. This proves NASA is lying, and they're
and that's the first fact right there, is that NASA is lying. And what is it? Just a huge Hollywood set, basically.
Exactly.
I mean, it's just. I mean, I don't believe the moon landing. I'll be honest with you. Yeah. But when people stare out into the moon, what are they looking at? What are we looking at when we are looking out and we see the moon at night?
Yeah, so that's a great question. The moon is the biggest mystery on flat Earth and on the globe. But if you look at the image I have behind me, on a full moon night, away from any city electric lights, you can read by the light of the moon, right? You can read by it. It casts your shadow on the ground. You can navigate because the moon is so bright. Correct. We have to believe that this dusty, dirty surface is reflecting sunlight back, where at 238,000 miles away, we can read by it. Okay. That's complete and utter nonsense. And One thing they don't teach you in
So
school
it
is
can't be, you're saying that there's no way that it could be reflecting light from the sun. That's
if
the
you
full
take
moon is, correct?
if you take yeah, that's what they say. If you take their science, which uses the inverse square law of light, that sounds complicated, but it's really not. If you have something that, let's say we're viewing the moon and it's 1 lumen, it's more like 10 or 20 lumens if we're able to read by it. Let's just say it's 1 lumen, and you go halfway to the moon, it's 4 times as bright. That's the inverse square law of light. Then if you take that distance and cut that in half, it should be 16 times. It quadruples. And so if you keep doing that until you're down to 100 miles away, the number is something like 10 million or 80 million. It's some ridiculous number of lumens where it would be as bright as the sun. And these guys are on the moon taking these dull pictures.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah.
It should be bright, right? It should be
It should be
extremely bright.
right, because as you move away, and if you don't believe me, get a flashlight, hold it in your eyes, and then have somebody move, 50 yards away and see how dim it is.
So
right?
you're admitting that you really so with all this evidence showing that it's not that,
Yeah.
you're saying that we don't really know what it is.
We don't know what the moon is, and
the moon.
There's time
Because I've heard other people say it's a satellite, it's a hollow base, it's this that there's so many theories on this.
I used to tout that they crashed something in and it rang like a bell, so I knew it was hollow. But that's coming from the people that told me this is a picture of Jupiter, right? That's from people that told Pluto, and this is Jupiter. I mean, that is utter nonsense. So what is it? When there's a crescent moon, there's been times where a planet or a star is within that crescent and we can see it, right? Well, there's supposed to be a moon.
Yeah, you're right about
it.
that. You're right about that.
Yeah. So it doesn't happen often, but it happens sometimes. So some people conclude, some flat earthers even conclude, well, the moon must be transparent then. I say, no, that thing that we're seeing, that light could be in front of the moon. Okay. We don't know where it is. We don't know what's going on there. When there's a new moon, when the moon goes new, which has no light, nobody has ever seen it in less than 40 some odd hours after it goes new until it starts waxing, has a waxing crescent. 40 hours. No, they've never seen it from the space station. They've never seen it from anywhere, from any lens, from any mountaintop. No one could ever see it. So what does that mean? I don't know. I mean, does it mean it's not there? Possibly.
So when I take a telescope out, like an amateur astronomer, and I go look at the moon, I see craters, I see indentions, I see valleys. I mean, I've seen this with a telescope.
Yeah. So we have super zoom cameras now that are better than lots of telescopes, and you can zoom in. If you look at the craters on the moon, they're all circles. They're all circles.
Perfect. They're perfect circles.
That means that if it's impact crater, that it had to come in straight down. What are the odds of that? I mean, when we look at like Russia, there was supposedly an asteroid or a comet or not a comet, whatever it was, an asteroid that crashed, and they showed it. People caught it on their dash cams a bunch of years ago. They're all coming in at angles. That would not leave a circular impact if it was going to leave an impact. They'd have to come in straight in. So what are those? Those giant craters we have on Earth. I believe that those are bubbles. The Earth was liquefied, and there's bubbles come up. If you just look up methane craters, they're all over the world. There's active methane craters. They look exactly like the craters that we're seeing, that people say are asteroid impacts from hundreds or thousands of years ago.
So like there's been many times I've seen shooting stars, I've seen meteor showers.
Yeah.
What's your explanation for those? Because I mean, I've stood outside at night and I've watched meteor showers. I've seen a shooting star so visibly that it's lasted for like 20 seconds, just shoot through the sky.
What
are those? What are they?
Again, the only thing that we can definitively say is that they're lights in the sky, but we're told that they're micro specks of, the size of a grain of sand or even, maybe a little bigger size of a pencil eraser coming in and burning up as they go through the atmosphere. Nothing burns up as it goes through the atmosphere. It just reaches its maximum speed going through the thickness of the air, and it might get warm, but it doesn't burn up. These are nonsensical beliefs. So if you think about it, if we're on a ball, okay, and you're watching comets, you should see them coming down. You should see them going sideways. You should see them coming up from the horizon, right? Because they're coming from all different directions.
Yeah. You're saying they wouldn't just keep coming down. They'd be coming in all directions.
They never go up from the horizon. Now, there's times where they're coming at you and they look like they're coming up, just like when a plane is leaving a trail in the sky. It looks like it's going straight up like a rocket, but there's no meteor showers that ever go up from the horizon. Okay. People have been looking forever. So what are they? Are they there's things called sprites. There's electric and magnetic forces. The only true forces in this world are electricity and magnetism, and they're brother and sister. And the Earth, let me dive into what the Earth is a little bit. The Earth is a flat plane, right? So again, we believe that there's some sort of enclosure over us, whether it's energetic, whether it's physical, whether it's frozen, whether it's liquid. We don't know, but there's lots of evidence that there's water above us. And
so that would be called the firmament, right?
Yeah, the firmament, exactly. And the charge differences between the ground and the firmament create these things. The Perseus meteor shower that comes every August 11th or 20th or whatever it is. The story we're told is that we are traveling through the path that a comet had gone and left all its dust there. Okay.
Right.
But that you have to remember, in the helio-nonsensical model that they teach us, we're spinning at 1,000 miles an hour. We're orbiting at 66,000 miles an hour, and we're chasing the sun at 500,000 miles an hour. So how is it every year on August, whatever the date is, we go through that same tail when we're billions of miles somewhere else in space? Makes no sense.
That's a valid point.
Right.
That's a valid point. So, yeah. I mean, these are things that are just common sense, to be honest with you. Like what you're bringing to me is common sense. I mean, I'm trying to refute this. I'm trying to get, I'm not a NASA scientist. I don't think I could hold a debate with you on this, but what I'm trying to say, what you're saying to me makes logical sense. The thing is this though, and okay, so people say North Pole, South Pole, things coming down, blah, blah, blah. How are people standing upside down at the South Pole? People standing, but isn't space a vacuum anyway? There really is no up and down. It's a vacuum. Space is a vacuum, correct?
So that's what NASA tells us. I don't believe you can't have a vacuum or even low pressure next to high pressure without a physical barrier. It cannot be done. Okay. If I had a plastic bottle, and I sucked the air out of it, and I put the top on it, so there's low pressure in there. It's definitely not a vacuum. There's still air in there. And I took it at any altitude, or even stuck the nose of it in the water, and I unscrewed the top. What's going to happen? It's going to pull the water or the air up and away, and it's going to fill the vacuum, right?
Right.
Absolutely.
Yes, you're right.
Right. But we're supposedly next to a complete and total vacuum with a high pressure system on Earth. How come it doesn't just suck the air away? And the answer all of the non-thinking people give is gravity. Gravity's holding the air down. Okay. That doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, but nobody's been able to explain what gravity is.
That is true. Gravity is a theory. But to disprove gravity, I can take a straw, and with the weak low pressure system in my mouth or my lungs, not even a vacuum, to apply a little bit of vacuum, and it's going to pull air and water up and away from gravity effortlessly. So what causes gravity? I forgot to say this. And for those of you that are new, that are going to get pissed off and they're going to go, I'm going to search it myself. If you Google flat earth proof, you're going to get all propaganda. You're going to end up at the Flat Earth Society, which Obama mentioned a half a dozen times in his speeches. Interesting. The Flat Earth Society is not what any of us believe. It is a government-controlled website of disinformation to make anyone that goes there just get gatekept. They'll see it. They'll be like, I'm never looking at Flat Earth again.
Yeah, I tell a lot of people, I go, once you go down the rabbit hole, be careful because it can turn into a maze and you'll never get out of it. And they deliberately do that to you.
And listen, we're going to keep going the way we're going. But at the end, people are the same thing. It happened to me. It happens to everyone. You're going to throw up your hands. You're going to say, well, what difference does it make? There's more important things in the shape of the earth. We're going to address that closer to the end. Okay. Because that is the biggest psyop of all. There's nothing more important than this topic.
So this would kind of lead me to believe that we're kind of like in this petri dish being watched, being studied or something. Like if we're living in a dome, is it a dome? Would you say that there is a, because I've heard of a independent scientists launching rockets and it hits a dome.
Right. So that's the Go Fast rocket in Arizona, I think, or New Mexico. I think it was Arizona. And it went up 73 miles, spinning really fast. It's got a camera on the side and a camera looking down. And it's going, spinning super high. And then all of a sudden it goes kerplunk and it stops spinning. And it went into a viscous medium. If it was water, I think it might have broken to pieces at that speed. It went into something that was cold and viscous. I don't know. But the camera, when it stopped spinning, as it turned, we could see the moon, which is a tiny speck at that height.
Yes.
And at that time, the moon was over Australia. Okay. This was and we could see it. So that's impossible on a globe. All right. But the globe, trolls, the people that are fighting to protect this lie will never address that. So what is up there? Again, as we talk, anything above 73 miles or farther south, which is every direction away from the center, is, past the shoreline of Antarctica is all speculation because we're not allowed to go there. Right.
Right.
We'll address that in a moment.
Well, hold on. That leads me to another question, because what about astronauts? I mean, I've never heard an astronaut. They've all said the same thing from what I've researched just a little bit, that they've been only to lower space orbit. Am I correct in saying that? So when they're up in lower space orbit, though, I always see, you'll say they're using a fisheye lens, but when they're up there, you can see the curvature. Yeah, when the astronauts are up there working on the space station or whatever, you can see the curvature of the Earth. Like it's curved.
Yeah, they're using a fisheye lens.
They're using? That's what you're saying it is. It's a fisheye lens, and but are they in lower space orbit? Are they there?
No, they're in a Hollywood studio. Nobody is in space. Nobody.
So if I talk to an astronaut and I get him to swear he's going to swear he's been to space.
He won't swear to God.
I mean,
he won't swear to God. He won't put his hand on a Bible and say, "I swear I've been into outer space." He won't do it.
So you're saying all astronauts from NASA have never been to
all of them are outright liars. Now, this hits you emotionally. We have so much respect, for
I mean,
them.
dude, they get up there on television and they talk about it. I mean,
here, I'm not going to say much about this.
What? I'm going to say this. I went to Dancing with the Stars, right? About 5-6 years ago. And I was there and I met Buzz Aldrin. And I told him, I just went up to him and I shook his hand. I go, I know you never went to the moon. And he looked at me and he smiled and he gave me a smirk and he just shook his head like this.
There you go.
Kid knows. And then he goes, he patted me on the shoulder. He goes, "You're a smart kid," and then he just walked off.
That's right. And Buzz has been trying to blow the whistle.
That for me was like confirmation that at least we didn't go to the moon. But I wasn't sitting here saying the Earth is flat. Yeah, I'm just saying I know we fucking didn't go to the moon. I just know that, and
it matters. So listen, because this is going on ScrewTube. I'm not going to say too much about this image, but this is the Challenger crew, okay? And all of these people have the same names as the people that supposedly perished on that emotional day. That's a day that, for the first time in history, all kids, at least in the United States and maybe around the world, watched it live.
I remember watching it.
They dragged televisions into schoolrooms for the first time and made kids watch this. This is trauma-based mind control. So all of these people they all work for universities. One of them has his own corporation, and they have the same name, right? And that when they're confronted, they claim that they have an identical twin brother, that they're the identical twin. Okay.
Can you zoom in on that photo? Can you enlarge it?
Or I actually can't. But if you look at you can find it online pretty easily. But hang on, they say they have an identical twin. But here's the thing: do you have any brothers or sisters? Any siblings?
Yes.
So you're closer to your siblings than you are to your best friend. Probably,
Yeah.
family. Well, except, they're siblings. Sorry.
Yeah.
So a twin has even a tighter bond to his twin or his or her twin. At the funerals for all of these astronauts, none of their twins showed up. Not one at any funeral.
And
That's
so every single one of them claim they have a twin.
These are all I believe so. Yes. And there's one of them that we couldn't find the person yet, but there's documentaries on this. Again, it's been banned off ScrewTube, but I have it. I'll show you where you can find all of this information.
So are all these astronauts, like, are they all like in a Masonic brotherhood or something like that? Is this what it comes down to? I mean,
100%.
So that's what this is. That's the base of all this. Then is masonry, is being a mason, correct?
It's all part of the secret society.
Because I remember they said when they were landing on the moon, the eagle has landed. I've always known that was code. Am I correct in saying that?
Absolutely, and they do these Masonic things when they're just the other day when they dock the dragon. I mean, there's all biblical names for all of these spaceships.
Right, they control by deceit, by deception, and so that's what this is at the basis and being taught to us in schools. Right. What? So let me just take you back to this for a second, What
I want to answer your question though about the planet looking round from space, but go ahead.
Okay, go ahead. Answer that first, and I'll answer that.
So if you watch, there's all of these live feeds from the ISS. They're not lives. They're just the same video for years and years going on loop. The guy with his glove in the picture and all this stuff. But if you watch the curve of the Earth, as it moves up and down in the frame, it bends just like a fish eye. It goes like this, and then it's like this, and then it's like this. This was a proof that everyone used, the
Red Bull jump. Right.
So we analyzed this and we could see these rivers, like here and stuff. That's all New Mexico. That's planet New Mexico. Okay.
Wow.
And the Earth is spinning to the east at 1,000 miles an hour. He was up there for 3.5 hours. He should have landed way out in the ocean, but he didn't land west. He landed a couple hundred miles east. So somehow he ran the spin of the Earth and landed ahead. So if the Earth is spinning this way, he went up and landed. He landed ahead of the spin.
Got you. And how fast is the Earth spinning? You said 1,000 miles an hour.
1,000 miles an hour. Let me.
Would that also, like, when I take off on a plane?
Yeah.
Would that also, like, let's say we're going the opposite direction. Shouldn't we land faster the opposite way?
Think about this. Think about this. If you're on the Earth is 24,901 miles around, NASA tells us at the equator. Right. So if you're on the equator, 24,000 miles, a day is 24 hours. So if you're on the equator, how fast is the Earth spinning? About 1,000 miles an hour, because it takes you 24 hours to go around. But if you were up in northern Alaska, much closer to the axis of rotation, let's say you were 1 mile from the North Pole, from the axis of rotation, okay? You're 1 mile. It's still going to take you 24 hours to go around, but you're only going 3.14 miles. So you're going less than a mile an hour. You're going like a quarter of a mile an hour.
Could the atmosphere be moving with the Earth?
Yeah. So hold on. Let's just answer the plain question first, and then it's going to answer that question.
Okay.
So do you understand how the closer you are to the center of the merry-go-round, the less speed you have.
Right.
You still have the same angular speed, but if you go to the outside, you get thrown off. Okay. So the equator spinning 1,000 miles an hour. So you're on a plane at the North Pole or just in northern Alaska. Let's just say northern Alaska. And at that area of northern Alaska, the Earth is only moving about 200 to 300 miles an hour because you have a much smaller circle. So you're sitting on the runway. You assume you're moving 300 miles an hour already before you start moving. Plane takes off. It goes 500 miles an hour. I'm going to add the 500 to the 200, which is not the way this works. But now you got 700 miles an hour speed. You fly to Ecuador and you want to land on a runway that's facing north-south. Okay. But that runway is moving sideways at 1,000 miles an hour. How do you catch up to that runway?
Yeah.
It doesn't make any sense.
It doesn't.
So let me share my screen here. If if the Earth was spinning like they say, I'm going to turn on this is the current weather, the wind charts. I'm going to set it for 40,000 feet. And so if you look, these winds out here in the yellow and the pink are going 200 to 300 miles an hour. The problem is they also are outrunning the spin of the Earth. So if the ball is spinning, they're outrunning the spin of the Earth.
That makes sense. You're right.
It makes no sense.
It makes no sense. But what you're saying is making sense. But yeah, this is.
It makes absolutely no sense.
Yeah.
So let me just run the flat Earth model by the people, and here.
Well, here. Okay. Can I just say what I see with this already?
Yeah. Go ahead.
I don't think the light would just stop in the middle there. It would still reverberate throughout the darkness there. Like, why? How can it just stop? Like, why? How can there just be a perfect stop line right there? Do you see what I'm saying?
I can explain all of that. So just remember that question. So let me just go through how this works. And you got on the flat Earth, the sun is small and close. The sun that we see, okay, is small and close, and I believe we all see it in an apparent position. But that's a longer conversation.
Well, I mean, I know that when I see the sun and the moon on an eclipse, or the Earth and the sun, or the sun and the moon, or lunar eclipse, they fit perfectly. I don't know how that could even be possible.
Right, and talking about eclipses, there's been many called Selenian eclipses where the sun and the moon are both above the opposite horizons by the viewer, and the eclipse starts at the top of the moon. Makes no sense. It's supposed to be the Earth that's coming up into it. So where was I going with this? So if you were in a big giant gymnasium, lights out, windows out, pitch black, and you had a candle, and you're in one end of the gymnasium, the candle is like a foot off the ground, it's going to light up a little area there. It's not going to light up the other side of the room. Okay. And now put a bunch of atmospheric density and clouds and stuff in there. You're not going to be able to see it because of perspective. I can show you.
I just don't see how the sun is lighting up that whole side, but then not the other side. It would still reverberate into that part of the globe, into that part of the disc, or whatever you're saying this is. You see what I'm saying? Like the light just wouldn't stop.
It does, and I can show you experiments how
light doesn't do that though. Light doesn't just stop. Like
no, it doesn't, but it's the atmosphere that stops it. It's the atmosphere that stops it. Light does not travel forever. So do you see how this area, the light is kind of wrapping more than half right now? It's kind of going over here.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So the reason for that is there's a difference between daylight and sunlight. Daylight, the sun rises on one side of your house, right? It's just on the horizon on the other side of the house. You can just see it. If you go on the other side of your house, you can read the newspaper. And that's because the sky is providing the daylight. It's kind of like the backlight in a photographer's studio, and the sun is fluorescing the sky. So as the sun moves outwards, it's closer to the firmament, and the light wraps around it. We can do experiments and show you exactly how that works. I can pull up a video in a minute if you want, and we can look at it.
So are you saying the sun moves in closer and further due to seasons?
So watch. Yeah, I'm going to show you right now. Right now, this outer yellow line is the Tropic of Capricorn. Okay. On December 21st, the sun will be out there. I'm going to jump the sun 1 month forward. And if you see in the left there, it says December 22nd. The sun is right over the Tropic of Capricorn. And the outer southern lands are having their summer because the sun is closer to them. It's farther from us. So it's lower in the sky due to perspective, and it's colder because it's farther. So I'm going to jump forward 6 months to June, and you'll see that the sun is all the way over the Tropic of Cancer, and that's the height of our summer because the sun.
Okay, so you're moving the sun closer in, right?
It moves in and out.
So then how is it darker on the other side? You moved it in closer. It should still be, the light should be radiating into the darkness there. The light should be pushing forward more. It shouldn't be darker right there. It should be more light should be hitting the whole sphere or the whole disc, right?
David, I can spend so much time on this and show you. I got to pull up some videos. But if you look, the light of the sun, it's going to jump back in a second, is creating a big circle, but that circle goes outside. So here's the curve of the circle. And so you can see that the shadow is more than half right now, right?
Right, but I mean,
So,
you've moved the
but
sun in, but so that I understand you don't want to just hold on.
yeah,
You move the
good.
sun closer to what we call the North Pole, right?
Yep.
But so how is it not the light not pushing past the north? It's just completely dark right there. Shouldn't the light be reverberating into that shadow more
Well,
so?
if you look at it, if you look in the center here, the light is actually going past the center. That's why in Alaska and in Norway, it's got a 24-hour sun. In June, the sun never sets because it never gets far enough away from them to set. The only reason the sun sets is because of distance, not because of tilt, not because of spin. It's because of the distance away. So it's right. You can see that they're having 24-hour sun. But if I jump forward, and I put the sun out there, it's dark. And again, it's got a big buffer zone on it, right? Because just because the way I made the app, I couldn't put a hard line on it. So that's it. So think about this. Let's talk about the day and the night. In the north, there's the 24-hour sun. There's the 24-hour sun in June. Okay. So that would mean 6 months later on a ball, there would be a 24-hour sun in Antarctica, but there's not.
Okay.
And there's 4 videos showing the 24-hour sun in Antarctica, and they are clearly and obviously and provably fake.
Well, can I ask you this? From the North Pole, are the constellations different than from the South Pole?
So this is how I tell people to think about it. Let's say we're in a room, and it's got random recessed lights in the ceiling. Okay, you're in a room, and those are the stars. Now we're going to expand that room to 5 miles wide. Okay, and we're both in the center of the room. And I say, you walk towards the end of the room, and you go 2-3 miles away, and we both lay down on the floor and look up. Are we going to see different stars? 100%.
Yeah,
you're going to see different stars. And when you look back at me in a room with a 10-foot high ceiling at 2 or 3 miles, you're not even going to be able to see my stars because they're going to merge with the floor. Right? I've been in hotels in Vegas where from one end of the hotel to the other, the lights merge with the floor.
Well, here's one thing. When I went to Australia and I went to Connemara where they had I believe it or not, I went and lived with some Aboriginals for 3 weeks, hunting and fishing and doing all that stuff. And I remember they had no light pollution, right? I could look straight ahead and see stars.
Absolutely.
So, I mean, I was looking straight ahead, not up. It was straight ahead. So wouldn't that?
Well, that's because it's very clear.
Right, but wouldn't that show more of a flat Earth or a round Earth? I mean, if I can see stars straight ahead, wouldn't that?
We can see stars straight ahead here. You just have to get away from the city and have a clear view. The problem is, when you move, like the Polaris North Star is about 40 degrees off the horizon, and as I move south, it drops down. Just like when you're standing under a street light, the first one's over your head, and then if you walk away, it goes lower and lower and lower, and eventually it merges with the horizon.
So the disk is spinning, or is it the Earth? I mean, the sun and moon spinning around us. We're not spinning at all. The disk isn't doing this.
So the Earth does not move. The sun and the moon, spin above the Earth. Okay, the sun laps the moon once every 28 days. Okay, all right, and then so that the sun is the hours of the day. The moon marks the months. The stars lap the sun once a year. So we're moving from this constellation, which is Pisces, I believe, into Libra, whatever this one is. So this is gonna catch up to the sun, and the sun will be in this constellation, and a month later it'll be in this one, and a month later this one. So the stars lap the sun once a year. So think about this. When in that crazy model where we're spinning and moving in 4 different directions at once, every year on any day of the year, the star, you go out tonight, mark all the stars, and in 10 years on the same night you go back out, all the stars are in the exact same position. That would be impossible night to night in the helio beehive.
But what about when they built the pyramids and they built the pyramids and weren't the stars at a different location at that time?
They were not. The stars have never changed. There's no proof.
But I thought they built the pyramids according to like Orion's belt or whatever, and it was.
And they still point to Orion's belt, right? And again, we don't know anything before 1900. We don't know the truth. I mean, do you know that Stonehenge was built in the 1950s?
I mean, I've never heard that.
We have video of it being built. It was completely built in the 1950s.
I mean, people are going to think you're absolutely batshit for saying that. And I mean,
but
this is what we have to deal with right now. This is this is the interview, dude.
Yeah.
I mean, that sounds so. Okay. So what's your evidence that it was built in the 1950s?
There's video proof of it being built, and they told why they were building it. There was some sort of rocks there, but they completely redid it. It's done they're cemented into place now. I mean, there's a video, and I'll share you the link. You can link it under here. It's a short video. Watch it yourself. There's hundreds of videos. The problem is people don't look. They believe what they're told, and they refuse to look at evidence. I mean, when I heard that Stonehenge, I was like, that's crazy. But I'm like, all right, wait a minute. The same people that are telling me, NASA and the other liars, why should I believe that? And I started researching it. I'm like, it was built in the 1950s. Right? You know how we're told that let me just finish this so I can unscreen share just real quick. So on a flat earth, the east and west are circles around, right? And that's true on a flat earth and a globe earth. So if you want to circumnavigate from the United States, you can go from the United States, you can travel 270 degrees, which is west. You travel west. I'm still following my compass, and all of a sudden I'm in Indonesia, I'm over in China and Africa, and I'm still going 270 degrees. And guess what? I'm back to where I went. I just proved that I went in a circle, not that the earth is a globe. I can do it east, 90 degrees. No matter where I am, 90 degrees is a circle equidistant from the northern center. I can even go from the United States. I can go in a straight line, north, 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 north. Oh, now I'm going south, 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 south. And I'm in the Far East, okay? And you could think that you're going around a ball, but you're really going straight. What nobody has ever done is gone south, 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 south off of let's say the tip of South America and popped up over in Australia. Nobody's ever done it because you can't, because we don't live on a ball.
Well, don't they say that what is it? Antarctica is off limits anyway? Is that why?
So Antarctica is off limits because if people knew what was going on in Antarctica, they'd realize the globe is a lie. So I'm jumping for. I know what your people.
Well, I have a lot of questions, but so would Antarctica be a shield of ice, a wall of ice? Is that what you're saying it is?
So people say, prove the ice wall. The ice wall is real. It's not a wall like the Game of Thrones. And Antarctica is the highest land on Earth. So all of this area out here is Antarctica. Okay. This is just the background I have. It's not what Antarctica looks like, but this is Antarctica. When you get to Antarctica, there's a 200-foot high cliff or higher in some areas to an ice plateau. Okay. And then that plateau goes on for hundreds of miles. And then there's a mountain range that's higher than Everest. They don't tell you that in school either. No. Antarctica is the highest land on Earth. We live in the Antarctic basin. So this is the world pond, and Antarctica is the shoreline that surrounds our pond. So people say, well, how come no one's looked off the edge, or how come they've fallen off the edge? If you were on a lake in Kansas and you could circle around the lake, a bunch of islands, you could circle east or west around the center of the lake.
So we're held like in a cup?
From the center. If you want to wait from the center, you get to the shoreline, like you can't fall off the lake.
So it's kind of like this.
We live in the Antarctic basin.
Right.
And so Antarctica is the shore that surrounds us. Nobody has gone around Antarctica on a ship, which would be about 13,000 miles if it was the size that they told us. The last person to try it was Captain Cook, and it took him 3 years. And he went something like 75,000 miles and never made it. Never completed.
What about pilots and airlines that fly to Australia, or they use the latitude, longitude, and they fly to South
Yes.
America. They fly to Australia. I mean, what wouldn't they know the Earth is flat?
Well, lots of them do. The Qantas pilots openly talk about it in their lounges. Many pilots have come out anonymously. Some of them have come out publicly, and they lose their jobs when they do. We've interviewed a female pilot from Alitalia, I think, or one of those foreign airlines, and she was immediately grounded. And pilots are petrified to come out. Lots of them don't know because they're just following the lines. GPS is guiding them. So let me answer that. Let me just finish what the app does, and because the app is gonna, anyone that wants to figure it out, the app will answer all your questions. If you hit the question mark, where's the edge? We were just talking about that. What about gravity, or why the lie? If you click it, up comes a video and a whole bunch of videos about why the lie. Right.
And
so
this is
all
an
of
app.
the questions. This is an app. It's called the Flat Earth, Sun, Moon, and Zodiac Clock app. It's $2.99. And then it feeds you every day. There's a new video down here, featured video every day. Short ones during the week, longer ones in the weekend. But if you click the video, well, it's not clicking right now. It'll take you to that video and then a whole bunch of other related videos, right? There's also my phone froze, so
It's okay.
whatever. So the app will take off years of research and put it all, so it's all at your fingertips. And again, I'm not telling people after hearing me to go, okay, the Earth is flat. I'm saying there's some doors here that there's information.
You've opened some questions
so
for me that I am stumped on.
So let's check this out. Here, I'm drawing a picture. Here's the globe. And down here's Antarctica, and here's the tip of Santiago, Chile, and over here is the tip is Australia. Okay, so here it is. So if a plane wanted the shortest route, it would be right around over to Antarctica.
Right, correct.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay, or it could stay at like 50 degrees south or wherever that is, and just come around the outside, and that's another short path. But that's not the way they go. The way they go is they go from Santiago. I'm just trying to find the image. Right. They go all the way from Santiago. They go all the way up to the north. They come across and then they go all the way back down.
Instead of just going boom.
Instead of just going boom straight across. But if you take those flight paths and put them onto a flat Earth map, straight line.
Interesting. So
right?
so really people I can go research this and find this on my own, the flight paths. So they just okay, you just
and the other thing is GPS.
Uh-huh.
Whenever you're far off of any populated shoreline, planes go into estimated mode. There's no GPS in the middle of the Indian Ocean. There's no GPS between California and Hawaii. There's no GPS over the Amazon. Okay, it's because GPS is a ground positioning system done with towers, and there might be some balloons involved. NASA's has the biggest balloon helium user, and they have tens of thousands of satellites hanging from balloons that they don't tell you about. So
what are satellites then? So when they launch a satellite, what are they even launching satellites?
No, they're not. If you look up satellite balloon program, if you just Google balloon satellite Antarctica launch, and you'll see them launching satellites up to 8,000 pounds on these balloons that stay up there for over a year. So what's wrong with this picture? Is the curve of the Earth the right amount, the wrong amount?
What's in his helmet? I can't see it from here.
What's in his helmet? The answer is, did you know that NASA's training facility is at the National Buoyancy Lab, where they have a replica of the space station in a gigantic pool that has green screens around it? Right.
Oh.
Right. This picture was taken underwater. In a pool. This picture was taken in a pool.
So why don't we see bubbles?
They do. The bubbles in space happens all the time. Little bubbles, when they're moving around, will pop out, but sometimes they're filming sideways. Sometimes they're filming upside down, because you can do that in a pool and the bubble will go sideways. But
here's the thing that's hard for me to believe, is that every astronaut is in on this.
Every astronaut is in on it.
So they're Masons.
They're Masons, or if you look at I'm spacing on the guy that said that we lost the technology, we destroyed the technology, and it's a painful process to bring it back again. You ever see that quote?
Yes.
Yeah. So
Of
that
the moon,
guy,
you mean, or the technology to go to the moon? Is that what you're talking about? Or
we lost the technology and we can't bring it back again.
Yeah,
That, Don Pettit, I think he's actually retarded. All right, and I'm not saying retarded he's retarded like you're progressive. That's a word. Or you're not. Your mind is slowed down. That's retarding your mind. I'm not saying
right. No,
it's a beautiful
dude, this
word.
is a politically incorrect show.
Right.
Here.
Well, I'm politically correct using that word. They're all, he might believe he went to space. There was an interview where he was in the cupola, a remake of the cupola, and it's got these cheesy little doors on it that you turn a knob and the window doors open. And the guy said, "What if there's a leak?" He goes, "Well, if there's a leak, there's a leak." He didn't know. Also look at fighter pilots, in the Air Force. They're the sharpest, best, smartest mathematics. They have crew cuts, right? They're and women, they're look at the people on the space station. They're morons, and all the women have long hair. Would the military allow that? Their hair is breaking off and going to be all over the place.
That makes sense too. You're right. Yeah.
None of it makes any sense.
I'm keeping an open mind for this, and honestly,
here's what I tell people.
Valid.
Here's what I tell people. Download the app. It's the Flat Earth, Sun, Moon, and Zodiac Clock app. It's $2.99. It's my app. It's how I support myself. I quit my high-paying job to do this because we're going to get into why Flat Earth matters in a second. And take the Flat Earth app challenge. Just watch one video a day for 2 weeks. And I guarantee you will know that you don't live on a ball.
It's a scary road to go down because you're going to be ridiculed, criticized. You're going to look like
don't tell anybody. Just do it yourself. But by the way, there's millions and millions of flat earthers now. It's growing unbelievable. And it's not like you mentioned flat earth to somebody 5 years ago. They'd be laugh at you, moron, ridicule. But now you mentioned they're like, I heard something about that. What about that? People are asking questions just like you are. 5 years ago,
I know I'm all over the place. I'm all over the place asking these questions, but my mind's just bouncing everywhere. So, like, what about the tide of the ocean? What about that's correct by the lunar activity, correct? That's
I have a video on the app about the tides. You know that there's tidal nodes all over the place where there's high tides and low tides. The tides do not correlate to the moon. If they did, when there's a new moon, there should be a high tide because the moon's still there. It's just not lit up by the sun, right? The moon and the sun are electric in nature, electric and magnetic, right? The salt water, the earth is a big battery, and the salt water carries the current. So as the sun and the moon move around, they circle around the flat earth in between those two tropics. They're creating a wake, okay? That causes what we call the Coriolis. But the official story on the moon is on the tides. I'm looking for a picture. Is that you got the earth right here, and when the moon is over here, there's a high tide, a bulge of water on this side of the globe, right? That's what they tell us. But at the same time, there's a high tide on the other side of the globe. The official story from the high priest of scientism, Neil deGrasse Tyson, is the moon is pulling the water away from the earth, causing that bulge, but it's also pulling the earth away from the water that's on the other side. Is that the dumbest thing you've ever heard?
Yeah, I mean, I hate to say it, but it kind of doesn't make sense. You're correct.
That's the official story. I could hear your.
This is what I was scared of. Is that you're going to start convincing me on this shit?
Dude, there's so many people. Yeah, I mean,
I do have questions though. I have some questions that I feel you need to answer.
Yeah, go ahead.
There's about 5 of them. I pulled them up off the internet because I know I wouldn't have all the right questions.
Go for it. Let's answer your questions.
Because I think you're making valid points, but I'm sure my audience is going to be like, oh, ask this, ask that. So I pulled up a site. Okay, I pulled up a site on my phone and it says 5 impossible facts that would have to be true if the Earth were flat.
Okay, so by the way, before you answer these, before you tell me what these are all the dumbest crap I've ever heard.
Okay, good.
All right,
good. Because I don't have all the questions.
on the app, I have debunking videos, and those questions are answered in those videos. But I will explain them quickly and concisely.
Yeah. I mean, I just want to go through them for my audience.
Yeah, please.
And just kind of put you to the test here.
Yeah.
But here's one more thing though. Here's another question that I have out of my mind. The Bible, right? So are you saying, do you believe in God as of the Bible now that you're saying that the earth is flat?
So before I realized that the earth is flat, I was anti-religion. I'm not religious now. And I'd be listening to a podcast, guys giving me great information on whatever topic. I got pages of notes. Then all of a sudden they'd mention the Bible or Jesus or Muhammad or whatever, the Quran. And I would tear up all the pages and I'd unsubscribe and I'd never listen to them again. That was me. But then when I tried to prove the globe and I realized, oh my God, the earth is flat and it's designed. This is a designed place. Therefore, there's a creator. My entire life changed. Now, who is that creator? That's your own personal journey. You figure that out on your own. I'm not saying who the creator is. There's a creator, and this, we are at the center of creation. Okay, we're right now. This world is a messed up place, and there's good versus evil going on. Okay, and evil, it wants us to live in a godless world. Okay, we live on a prison planet where an asteroid's going to wipe us out. Global warming. They're running out of resources and they're dividing us by countries, by sports teams, by color, by everything. They just divide. So we don't collect our consciousness together. And they want us to believe that, to believe the heliocentric model, nothing exploded, created everything. Then Earth, created, and then lightning struck and an amoeba turned into a fish that grew legs, that turned into a monkey, that turned into a human. Okay. And that you're on a speck in an infinite vacuum, spinning out of control with trillions of other specks that could just be like this.
Just randomness, yeah.
So you're lost in space in a godless or distant god universe, okay? Versus the reality, we are at the center of creation and this place was designed for us, and we are special and we are powerful.
So how would you explain extraterrestrials or aliens?
Yeah, so extraterrestrials, words have meaning. Extra terra, territory, extra land. Okay, what is beyond the shoreline of Antarctica? There could be other worlds out there. Right. There could be 100 other continents.
So those would be the different dimensions that they're crossing through to get here, right? So that's what we would consider that, a different dimension.
So they're in the outer space. The outer space is this map right here. That we live in this center circle. The Antarctica is, several hundreds or 1,000 miles, whatever, of ice. And then there's other continents out beyond there. That's one possibility.
Okay.
And there's another ring beyond that. Okay. And it has its own sun and moon. Crazy, right?
Yeah. I mean, that's just, I know that's a question that the audience would want to ask.
Right. So there's stories, the story of the Iron Republic that talks about go ahead.
What is outer space then? What is it? Are you saying it's the water? That's the dome and then water above that?
Beyond, and there's nothing we don't. So
no. When we look up,
and
we see stars at night, and during the day we see blue. Is that water, or is that? We don't know what that is. That's just the abyss. That's just, we don't have any idea what that is. What's beyond the dome?
We don't, again, as I said earlier, anything beyond the shoreline of Antarctica or above, as high as we can get. We're speculating, but if you look at NASA, all of their terms are nautical terms. All of their stuff they talk about is ships and oceans and whatnot. The deepest hole ever dug, flat Earth or globe Earth, is less than 8 miles. Okay. At what point they hit an impenetrable barrier, and they tried for years to break through it. They tried blowing it up and drilling through it, and nothing can get through this barrier. So what the heck is that? That's equivalent, if you had an apple, that's the Earth, of getting through the skin of the apple, barely. Okay. Barely through the skin. And their ground penetrating radar that they used while they were drilling was wrong every step of the way. They said, all right, there's no more water. They hit more water. Oh, there's no more rocks. They hit more rocks. And then somehow the science can tell us and give us a cross section of the globe and show us all the layers and the liquid metal, magnetic center. we don't know what's in the skin. We couldn't get through the skin and guess, and now we know what's in the center. It's all helio nonsensical bullshit.
All right, let me get to these questions because I don't have all the questions, and I want to be at least fair to the audience.
Yes.
To where they can. Okay, so number one. All right,
Yes.
we'll go down. There's only 5. All right, I'm sure you've seen this. It says here, lunar eclipses don't occur only at midnight. So I guess so take a look at the shape of the Earth's shadow during a lunar eclipse, particularly during a partial phase. Do you notice how the Earth's shadow always appears to be a piece of near perfect circle? If the Earth were a flat disk, that means there's only one possible orientation that the Sun-Earth-Moon alignment can take place in to create a circular rather than elliptical shadow, with the Earth's disk perpendicular to the Sun-Moon plane. This means the Sun would need to be at the midnight position relative to the night side of the Earth, and yet the lunar eclipses occur at all different times depending on where you are on the Earth. The flat Earth can't explain that. Is that correct?
Yeah. Well, so no, that it's built on a completely straw man premise that the Earth is a disk. The Earth is not a disk. The Earth is not a disk floating in a heliocentric universe. It's also assuming that the Earth is what's causing the eclipse. Okay, but as I said, the Selenian eclipse, like if this is behind me, this is a balloon shot. But imagine we're standing on the surface of the Earth. There's the sun setting. The other way is the moon, and the moon starts getting eclipsed from the top down. It starts getting eclipsed from the top down. That makes no sense. The eclipse has nothing to do with the Earth. We're told that it's a sphere Earth doing it because it always makes a perfect circle. But if you take a ball, and I'm not even saying that the moon is a ball because we can show you that it could be many other things. If you take a ball and a light and another ball and eclipse that light on the ball, that shadow comes in as a very tall ellipse. It comes up and then it spreads out and then it leaves as an ellipse again, right? Because it's not a flat surface. A ball would not make what we see. Now, if I took a straight edge, a book, or piece of, whatever, a piece of straight edge, and you got the ball here, and I brought that up, that straight edge will create a curve just like we see. I'm not saying that anything is doing that. I believe that the eclipse is caused by something completely different. And again, we don't know. Neither do the ballers know what it is. But the Selenian eclipse, there's been over 50 of them documented, absolutely prove beyond a shadow of a doubt it's not the Earth creating it. So that entire premise of that question is a straw man argument.
Okay, next question. Different locations on Earth experience seasons at different times. Ever notice how the summer in the United States corresponds to winter in Australia, or how winter in Italy lines up with summer in Argentina? This is because the sun rays, which are almost perfectly parallel, strike Earth at different angles during different parts of the year. If the Earth were flat, the sun's rays would always come in at the same angle, meaning that the USA, Australia, Italy, and Argentina would all experience the seasons the same exact way. The flat Earth idea can't explain this.
So again, the way I love how they always end it with the flat Earth can't explain it. No, they don't even understand that the sun is small and local. Right here, the sun, we're heading into winter in the north because the sun is away from us. So the sun rays are lower in the sky, and the sun is higher in the sky in the south because the sun is closer. I got 2 sticks on a table. Okay. And I get a light and I hold the light over this stick. Is there a light bulb? Is there a shadow on this stick? There's no shadow, right? It's getting direct sunlight. But this stick over here with the light over here, there's a shadow. Right. Okay. A baller will say, well, I can measure the angle of that shadow and measure that. And assuming the sun rays are coming in straight, this table has a sphericity of, 500 feet in circumference. Okay. That's what Eratosthenes supposedly did to measure the Earth. But he has to assume that the sun rays are coming in parallel when they're not. I mean, if you look at the sun coming through the clouds, the sun rays come in at crepuscular rays.
Right. And yeah, that's true, actually.
Yeah. And then they'll claim refraction. Well, then, here's how the sun rays come in. You draw those lines, and that sun that we see is right above those clouds. And again, that gets into,
so how far is the sun? How far would you say the sun is exactly?
Nobody knows.
Trillions of miles is what the globers.
No, 93 million, they say.
Okay, 93 million. Okay. How far do you don't know how far?
So here's the thing. If you triangulate somebody's position, let's say people have radios and you're lost in the woods, 2 other people with radios can triangulate your position. If you have a third person or a fourth person or a fifth person, they could really nail your position by more triangulation. If 2 people triangulate the sun and they say, okay, I think it's this distance, the more people you add to that equation, the farther off the results get. Because when you see the sun, we're seeing it it's being, for lack of a better word, projected into the Earth system. Okay. And so if I hung up a sheer blue sheet dividing a room in half, right? It's sheer sheet. And on the other side of that, there was a bright light, a sun. Okay. And I'm looking at the sheet and I see the bright spot on the sheet, right? I see the bright spot right here, but you're standing over there. I see the sun here. You see it over here on the sheet. Okay. Right. And that's kind of how we see the sun in a different position based on our position. When I'm watching the sun set at the water's edge, I see the sun walking on the water right to my feet. I see that glare. And then you're 100 feet, 100 miles, or whatever, down the beach. You see it walking to your feet, and I don't see what you see. Okay?
Yeah.
It's and again, we have so many experiments and videos demonstrating this. And the sun setting, I'm sure that one's going to come up.
Yeah. Rising and setting. I mean.
Yeah. All right. So
how do you explain that?
Ask me the next question while I pull up a video, right?
Okay. Different stars are visible from different latitudes. Look up at the night sky from a very high northern latitude location, and you'll see the big and little dippers, the bright orange giant Arcturus, and the Pleiades, among other sights. Yet, if you head to the South Pole, none of these celestial sights are visible. But you can see Alpha Centauri, the Magellanic Clouds, and the Southern Cross, all of which are never visible to the most northern hemisphere skywatchers. If the Earth were flat, everyone on the night side of the Earth would see the same sky. This is another observation that the flat earthers can't account for.
So again, remember the example of the room I told you? You know, when you're looking up, we're in the giant room and the clouds are the lights that we see. You can't see my lights. I can't see your lights. It's all due to perspective and atmosphere. I mean, that's how it works. I mean, do you see that, or I need to explain it further?
Explain it a little bit further for people that don't. I mean, I kind of get it. I do get it. You see this part of the room. I see this part of the room.
If the room was 10 miles wide and we were 5 miles apart and we're both looking up, we see different lights. And even the lights above you 5 miles away are merged with the floor. I can't see them.
Gotcha.
Okay. And that's even in a room without clouds and everything.
Okay.
Okay. So, go ahead. Ask me the next one. I'm still trying to find the
number
video
4 here.
Sunset.
Okay, I don't know what this word is. You cannot see Kawakinini from the peak of
a mountain.
Kawakini. You cannot see Kawakini from the peak of Mauna Kea. Mauna Kea, the highest peak of Hawaii. Am I saying that right? I don't know. Mauna Kea, the highest peak in Hawaii, the summit of the Big Island, offers incredible views. With nothing but the ocean around it and a few other nearby islands, you should be able to see extremely far away. The island of Kauai, I guess it is, has the 7th highest point in the Hawaiian Islands. The peak known as Kawakini, I guess. If you were to draw a straight line from Mauna Kea, elevation 13,796 feet, to Kawakini, elevation 5,226 feet, it would span a distance of 303 miles.
Yeah. So again, when you're looking across the Earth plane, you're looking through the thickness of the atmosphere. It gets so thick. If you ever look, if you're out like west and there you've got mountain ranges, they get lighter and lighter and lighter, and then they turn to sky. You can't see them because there's just too much atmosphere in the way. That's not an excuse. That's an actual real thing, and you can demonstrate it.
Okay, so it continues right here. I missed this. However, you cannot see one from the other. which you would absolutely be able to see or be able to do if the Earth were flat. With a curved Earth of its measured radius, the line of the sight limit for those two elevation caps out at about 233 miles. Only with a curved Earth is one visible from the other. And this is true for any two mountain peaks with clear line of sights from one to the other.
So again, we have many observations where there's a place in France, Alouge, France, where on a certain day of the year, when the sun is lined up with Mount Canigou, I think I got my names mixed up too. The sun will go beyond that and backlight it. You can't see the mountain until the sun gets beyond it, and then it shows it 273 miles. It would be the top of that mountain would be miles below the curve of the Earth at that distance,
right?
And it's not. So,
got you.
So let me share my screen here, and I'm going to show you how the sun sets due to perspective, and you can witness this. Excuse me. Share screen. And again, the ball has a big advantage over the flat Earth, because you can just believe it. To understand the flat Earth, you have to spend hours and days and weeks studying it to learn the truth. Belief is easy. All right, I believe it. I can go smoke a joint, drink a beer, take a nap, right? Knowing takes time, right? So they don't teach us about the angular resolution limits of our eyes and atmospheric lensing. So here's a quick experiment. I'm just jumping forward. We're using we have a Farrell lens, which is like the atmosphere, and the sun appears to set. Okay. And that's not what's going on. And then, it comes around the other way and it comes back up. I'm just jumping forward. And this is what's going on here. So the sun is just moving away. The atmosphere is magnifying it, and it sets below the desktop right there. It's now below
that's
a flat
interesting.
desktop. Yeah. Let me show you another view of it. So there it goes. It's a little better. If you look at the top, and
so your perception sees it going down.
Yeah, it looks like it's going down.
And you're just moving away. That's interesting.
And it's moving away. The sun is a celestial object high in the sky. The clouds merge with the horizon at 20 miles. The clouds merge with the horizon. Okay. And so that looks like the horizon to you, but the sun moves beyond it, and it just sets beyond the clouds. So here's the sun that moves beyond the clouds, and it sets. And that cloud is merged with the horizon from your perception. All right. What was the other one? I was looking up another video. I think it was this. Oh, day and night on flat Earth. Check this out. So this is on a flat Earth map. What day and night would look like. January, March. You see that as the sun moves inward, the shape. March is the equinox, right? And now June, it's more of a circle, and you have the wrapping around of the light. So let me just jump a little forward here.
So you're saying, are we held like in a cup? Because that's why the ice sheets are so.
We're on a lake. Just think of the world ocean as a lake with islands in it.
Okay.
And the shoreline
is
the
for
highest.
Me to see. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're not this disc. We're not this flat disc just spinning in space.
No, there is no space. The Earth is the basement of the universe.
Okay, so that's the argument they have, is that there's this flat disc just spinning in space, and it's surrounded by all the other planets that are around.
So check this out. On the left is time and date showing us the year, how the light is. You see how the light wraps around? It wraps around here, right? That's how you get 24 hours of daylight, not sunlight, in Antarctica. So if we watch as we move this sun in and out from the Tropic of Capricorn to the Tropic of Cancer, you get that wrapping. Okay, this is just a glass dome. Okay, so it's possible. It's showing the same thing that we experience. Okay, it's amazing, right?
Yeah, it really
is.
There's
a lot to this.
Way more than I thought. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah. And by the way, I've been researching this every day for 6 years now. and it's never boring. And we learn new stuff every day. There's just yesterday on the app was we have a video. It was a distance video on Mount Fuji. I think of Mount Fuji in Japan. We're seeing it so much farther than we should be able to. We have videos. You know, the taller you are, the curvature of the ball, according to the Globers, is 8 inches per mile squared. So at 3 miles, there's 6 feet of drop. So a 6 foot tall person standing next to the edge of a calm ocean or lake or whatever should only be able to see 3 miles before the surface of the water drops behind the curve. Well, we can put a camera at a foot off the ground. At a foot off the ground, the curve, it should only be able to see like 1.9 miles, but we can see oil rigs and wind turbines that are 10, 12, 15, 20 miles away. Not only can we see them, and by the way, they get compressed a little bit by the atmosphere, we can see the water surface beyond them. And we can see land beyond them that should be a mile below the curve.
Right. It should be dropping. It should be dropping,
but we can still see the curve. You know, like if you Google, we did an experiment at Salton Sea where we were doing a distance experiment, and National Geographic showed up with their own film crew and everything. And they did their own experiment. They had a big board that had red and white stripes on it. It looked like an American flag. And they had a little Zodiac boat, and they held it at the edge of the boat. And then they drove away, and they had a guy with the camera about a foot off the water and watching it. And when it was out there, all of a sudden the bottom stripe was missing. And then the next stripe was kind of missing. Right. And they're like, yeah, this is due to Earth curvature. But what they didn't notice is beyond the boat, you could see the water, the surface of the water, for miles beyond the boat. So what they were seeing was just little waves getting in their way, an atmospheric obfuscation, I call it.
Okay. Yeah. One more question.
Go ahead.
Let's do it. This is, dude, I'm going to be honest with you. This is fascinating, man. I mean, see, I thought the flat earthers thought that the earth was just this disc in space, or this just flat disc with a dome over it.
If you Google images of flat earth, you're going to get cartoons from the Flat Earth Society.
That's them discrediting
heliocentric model with the flat earth in space, a disc, right? Nobody believes that. And then the highest viewed flat earth video on YouTube is by Vsauce. And we've all seen it, where he says, if the flat earth, gravity didn't work, because as you got out towards the edge, the gravity would be pulling you back towards the center, and you'd have to climb over none of that's true. We don't believe in gravity due to mass. We believe that there's an electric static charge to the earth, which sets the downward direction, and then buoyancy and density sort everything else out. That's provable.
I've always looked at my mind like, you know, once I open Pandora's box, or once you stare into the abyss stares right back at you. And I got to tell you, you've opened some doors for me today.
Yeah.
That I wasn't expecting at all. So I got to thank you for that, because I like to be an open book. And this is really,
don't be so open-minded that your brain falls out.
I'm stumped on a lot of things right now. I mean, I'm just baffled, but it's entertaining, and it's
David, I don't want anyone to walk away from this, if you're hearing this for the first time, going, okay, the earth is flat. You can say,
research it. Go look
I got issues. There's issues with the globe. Try to prove the globe. Okay. I have $1,000 for anybody in cash or Bitcoin.
And basically you're saying you don't know what's beyond this, and we don't know. You're just saying, it's not sphere.
Oh, when I was talking about the deepest hole, impenetrable barrier. Well, maybe there's another impenetrable barrier above us. Okay. Maybe there's multiple layers. Lots of Vedic cosmology. Check this out. They talk about all these different layers, heaven above, hell below. Who knows? I don't know. I can't go there. The biggest argument is we've known the earth is a globe for 500 years. Eratosthenes proved it with his sticks and shadows experiment, which I just debunked with the small, with the 2 sticks on the desk. Well, Eratosthenes was a mathematician from 500 years ago or whatever. But he has never mentioned that experiment has never been found in any book until the 1980s, where it was inserted into a Rockefeller textbook and put into the school system as a proof of the earth. Okay. It was put in the 1980s. Complete nonsense. So I was visiting my mother, who lives in a retirement community, and she was resting. And I asked the healthcare facility person there, I said, is there anyone here over 100 that has a sharp memory? And they're like, oh, Ruth, right over here. She's right in the dining room. And so I went and I was interviewing this woman, Ruth, about the World's Fairs, because that's a whole nother rabbit hole, man.
The world's what?
The World's Fairs, the World's Fairs. There was a World's Fair in New York, in California.
Yeah.
The World's Fairs were the wiping out of a previous civilization. That's a whole nother show.
Oh, I would love to have you on for that too.
So I'm talking to her, and she was telling me a story about her 5th birthday, and little Sally in her pink dress was pissed off that the cake had coconut on it or whatever it was. I'm like, wow, I don't even remember my 5th birthday. This woman's 102. And I said, hey, Ruth, do you remember elementary school? And she's like, told me to school. And I go, what was your teacher's name? And she's telling me your teacher's name. And I said, what did they teach you in science class about the earth? And I had never mentioned flat earth. She goes, they taught me the earth was flat, but then they changed it. This was in the this was in Connecticut in the 1920s. We also found a woman from Croatia who wasn't quite as old, but in the 1930s, they were teaching flat earth to everybody. She's like, everyone knew the earth was flat, but then they changed it. Right. So then they introduced World War I, World War II, the Great Depression. They rewrote history, because if people realize that we are the center of creation, that we are powerful spiritual beings that have God-given free will that cannot be taken away from us unless we willingly give it, put on a face muzzle and comply, right? Then they lose control if people know that. They want us believing we live in a godless universe
you mentioned
spinning out of control.
You mentioned face muzzle. That's happening right now.
Well, that's why I mentioned it. I mean, I don't wear a face mask. Right, I mean, I have a video that I just put up where I got thrown out of Costco for the first time. And the police came and everything, and I schooled them. They don't know the law. They don't know anything. Yeah, they don't know anything.
No, I go everywhere without a mask.
Yeah, all right, we won't get into that right now. Go ahead.
Yeah, that's going to go into another.
Yeah.
Let's have the last question here, number 5. Sure. All right.
Yeah.
Sunsets and sunrises happen at different times depending on your longitude. If the Earth were flat, then someone in New York and someone in Los Angeles would see the sunrise and set at exactly the same time as one another. But in practice, the difference is approximately 3 hours. Not only that, but at every point in between, the sun rises, sets at a different time, something that could not happen if the Earth were flat.
So I love how they always something that could not happen. How about something that could not happen in the author's paradigm of what he thinks the flat Earth is? Right. So here's the flat Earth. Here's New York. Here's California. Okay, right. I'm gonna move this hand. Yeah. Just remember, California's here. Here's the sun. What time is it in New York?
Whatever.
Look, the sun is directly above.
Noon.
It's noon because the sun is here. But over here, the sun is at an angle. What time is it there? 9 a.m.
9 a.m. Yeah.
So now it's noon here. It's about 3 p.m. over here.
Okay.
That's how it works. Time zones only make sense on a flat Earth. Seasons only make sense on a flat Earth.
This question does is kind of nullified. So the fact that it can be evening in New York and late afternoon in Los Angeles, or morning in New York while it's still before dawn in Los Angeles, is something that the flat earthers cannot account for.
Well, they always say that they lead. They put false conclusions.
And this is Forbes magazine, by the way.
Yeah, but so by the way, all the mainstream they put this stuff out to program people. Well, this is Forbes that said it, and they said flat earthers won't address it. Therefore, I believe that, and they don't even bother.
Right,
so look,
mainstream.
If you go on the app, hit the question mark, and hit what about seasons. There's so many videos on there. All you got to do is watch one, and you'll realize seasons make 0 sense on a flat Earth. We're told that just because we're tilted away a little bit, that causes our winter, and when we're tilted towards the sun, that makes our summer, right? Just that little tilt. Well, what about when the sun is just on the horizon? That's like the most tilt. Okay?
Right.
But on June 21st, when the sun is on the horizon, you can feel the heat on your face. That's at a almost 90-degree tilt away from you. But on December 21st, the winter solstice, when the sun is at its highest point in the sky, let's say it's 40 degrees in the sky, that's a much more direct angle. You can't even feel the heat on your face.
Correct.
Okay, so the tilt idea is utter brainwashing nonsense. So here, I just want to show you this video. This is what I call the sun fade out. And you can only do it when it's cold, super clear, And where I have a drone. I put a drone up as high as I can get it, and I'm filming the sun. And I watch the sun go down, 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 and it gets to the apparent horizon right about here, and then it just sits there. And this is super sped up. This is like 1200 speed, and it doesn't go down. It just fades away.
Oh wow.
Okay, I'm gonna reverse it here. It'll show it again.
And that's from a drone. How does
this is from a drone? Yeah, it just fades away. But the thing is, it sat right there, right at that apparent horizon for 10 minutes. That shows that we're not spinning, and it also shows that light doesn't travel forever. So look, this is a super, super clear day, and it's just going away, and we can't see it. It's still there. We just can't see it. Okay, my friend.
So it's not going down.
It's not going down. It just goes, it looks like it's going down due to perspective, but when it gets to the horizon, it just fades. But the problem is when you're looking at the horizon from the ground, there's always something, the air gets so thick that you can't see through it, or there's a tree line. Like if you're looking at a tree line 5 miles away across water, the tops of those trees look like they're level with your eyes, but you know that they're 100 feet above your eyes. Okay?
Right.
So here are the trees 100 feet above your eyes. Here's the sun, and it just goes away. Look, it's setting. It's setting. Okay. And that's what happens with the sun. It just goes away. Flat Earth is amazing, dude.
If I put this video up on YouTube, is it going to get taken down?
No, this won't get taken down at all. Absolutely not.
Okay, so this can.
Yeah, I
won't sacrifice my channel to put it up because we're talking. Because I can see how this would be the biggest lie, honestly.
This is the biggest lie, and this is the most important.
It all stems from here, correct?
So when people wake up, here's the thing: what your views on this COVID thing is? I'm sure this is a takeover of they're trying to take over the world.
Correct.
There are no flat earthers that have fallen for the COVID nonsense.
Well, I haven't fallen for it.
I know. And I'm not saying that there's not anyone else, but there's no flat earthers that have fallen. When you wake up to flat earth, something happens. You now realize who you are, where you are, what you are. Okay. You now know that you have more power than they want you to know. The biggest psyop is I'm only one person. I can't do anything about it. They're too powerful. That's not true. They can't do anything to us unless we agree. And the problem is they trick us. They tell us what they're doing because they always have to tell us.
Yeah.
And then we don't say no. So we're consenting under, maritime law. So we consent. We give away our rights. And the way they do that is they have us in fear, fear of everything, fear of war, fear of asteroids. And people just give away, please protect me, Mr. Government, protect me, and you give away your rights. So, this truth wakes people up to the game that they're playing, that we are insignificant, we're nothing, and that we need them to control us. That is the opposite of the truth.
Yeah, we're powerless. We're powerless.
We are so powerful. It's unreal.
Right, but they want us to believe we have zero power.
Correct.
And that's the way they take it away from us. And they indoctrinate kids in school with this from the get-go. I mean, I don't know why I thought I'm going to tell you, the reason I thought the earth was a sphere is because I was taught that in school. And I was shown pictures of the earth being
worse than that. Before you could speak, if your parents put you down in front of the television, first they had a mobile above your head in the crib of planets, probably.
Right. Yeah.
Right. Sesame Street, astronauts, the yip yaps with the moon and the earth. I remember literally, I was like 2 or 3 years old, and there was a something on Sesame Street. I think it was Sesame Street, but it was like I was so proud that I knew the difference between the moon and the earth. Okay, I was like a tiny kid.
Yeah.
And then you go to school. What's in the front of every classroom? A globe. Okay. Right. And the teachers that are teaching you about gravity by swinging water in a bucket around, that doesn't make any sense. You have to turn the bucket out facing outwards to,
yeah.
I brought that up to my teacher, I think in kindergarten, as like, don't you have to have it the other way? And the teacher's like scratching his head. He's like, that's a good question. He goes, but this is the way I'm supposed to teach it. And you say, are all teachers in on it? And the answer is
no. They're just being told what to taught, and they just regurgitate it. That's all that is. How do you
become a teacher? You're good at memorization and regurgitation. That's it.
I always tell people I went to school, I got a degree, this and that. I'm like, that has nothing to do with IQ. Nothing.
Yeah.
That has nothing to do with IQ. IQ is
Nothing.
completely separate from that.
Yeah.
It's good at memorization and regurgitating what you learn, and it's almost like a drone.
Yeah.
Seriously. But man, David, thank you for coming on here and elaborating on this flat Earth. I mean,
Here's
you
a
cleared up a lot
picture
of my questions. I'll be honest.
Day next to night. It's daytime over there, and it's nighttime over here.
Right.
Okay?
Yeah.
That's just the sun.
That answers my question from the graph you showed me before, or the ball spinning. Yeah, that answers it right there. Actually, that shows me that
the sun is like a Tesla coil, and it's fluorescing the gases in the air. Well, guess what? The number one gas at the high altitude is it's nitrogen, which fluoresces blue. Okay, so there's a lot of reasons why the sky is blue, but as the sun moves through it, it's electrically lighting the world.
So what?
Good.
So one last question that just popped in my mind. What about the meteorites they find on Earth?
Lies.
I mean, but I've seen one.
Well, you know what? What are they? Maybe it's a piece of the firmament that's coming down.
Okay.
Lot of it is baloney. But I personally think the firmament is physical and solid. Excuse me, I'm hiccuping. Okay. And that maybe pieces of it come down. I don't believe that.
You're saying you don't have all the answers, but that the answer is but the answer is not a sphere.
It's definitely provably beyond belief not a sphere. Let me just show you one more thing. So if this is at
least we can agree on that. Okay, we're right. At least saying that you don't have all the answers, but you're saying this is not a sphere. I question that as well.
The sun, if you ever looked at a scale model of the Earth and the sun, it's like, how is the sun holding onto the Earth? It's so small and so far away. But Correct. The sun, this giant burning ball of hydrogen that somehow burns for billions of years, and it has the gravity that's holding on to the Earth. And the Earth is falling around the sun. The Earth is there; it's falling around the sun, but it's just going around its curve. Okay, but somehow the Earth grabbed onto a moon. And the moon is falling around the Earth. But when the moon comes in between the sun and the Earth, the sun's gravity ignores the moon and just holds on to the Earth and lets the moon continue on its way.
Got you.
Wouldn't it just rip the moon right out of the Earth, or at least nudge it? Okay. Right. The moon is in the exact same positions. By the way, the eclipses, solar and lunar eclipses, go on an 18-year cycle called the Soros cycle, 18 and a half years, whatever it is. And then they repeat again and again and again. There was a, back in the times when everyone knew the Earth was flat, there's a device called the Antikythera mechanism that was discovered off of Greece. And it's a complicated clock type thing that shows you the positions of the sun, moons, and some of the planets and all of the eclipses. It's 2,000 years old, right? So there's people have just beliefs like, well, how do they predict eclipses? We use, like, NASA uses this old cycle to predict eclipses that, everybody before NASA knew the Earth was flat. Forget what history told you. It's all lies.
I'm going to tell you right now, I'm impressed, man. I am really impressed. No, really. You've raised a lot of questions. You've answered a lot of questions. I'm just going to say, I don't know. And so I don't claim to know. But I am believing in your theory a lot more than I did at the beginning of the show.
Thank you.
100%. Like this holds a lot of substance to me. So thank you for coming on the show and sharing this information. You're a wealth of knowledge, man. Thank you.
I appreciate it. So, as I mentioned earlier, I left my own company that I started 5 years ago because the world's so screwed up, and I couldn't sit idle and not try my best to help wake people up. And then YouTube censorship, where we used to be able to search flat Earth and see all the new videos that are going up. They stopped that. You search for flat Earth, you get all propaganda. You can even search by titles, channel names,
right.
And if they don't come
discredit
up,
it.
But my app, the Flat Earth, Sun, Moon, and Zodiac Clock app, will bring you to all of the good videos. There's new content being added every single day. People love it. Just go look at the reviews. The reviews are through the roof, except for some ball trolls that are going there trying to destroy it. But
So can you tell me what the name of the app is again?
It's called the Flat Earth, Sun, Moon, and Zodiac Clock app. If you just search in Google Play or Apple iStore for Flat Earth, it's by Flat Earth Clock. It'll come up. It's by Blue Water Bay. It's $2.99. I'm going to tell your listeners something. If you get the app, take the challenge. All right. And what happens is I get emails from people. Hey, I saw you on David Rodriguez's show and I bought your stupid app and I took your challenge, but I didn't want to wait for the video each day. So I hit the archive button, which is the button right next to it. And I haven't slept in 2 days. Holy crap. The earth is flat. My family wants to, throw me out and put me in an insane asylum. So my suggestion is just get the app, set it up. There's a lot of settings in there that you can customize it, and just watch the videos. Take your time. Don't jump forward. Don't start telling everybody.
I mean, I'm going to tell you right now, like I'm having I want to go into cognitive dissonance right now, and I want to short circuit and just like blow this off and never think about it again, put my head in the sand.
Of course.
But that's just the natural reaction you have. It's so much information you just gave me right now that it rattled me. Like I'm not gonna lie to you. Right. And I need to it's gonna take time for me to look into this and research it more. I'm not gonna just jump on board right now and say, yeah, I'm all in.
No,
that's not what I do. But I'm definitely, dude, you've definitely opened some doors for me that I didn't think were gonna be open.
Again, in the words of Crow 777 Radio, it's belief is the enemy of knowing. Belief is easy.
Yeah.
Knowing takes time, effort, and critical thought, and the willingness to lay down your ego. It's easy to fool somebody. It's very difficult to convince them they've been fooled. But once you get through that, you're willing to look at the evidence and see the light. You'll look back at the heliocentric model, which I call the helio-nonsensical model, and wonder how you'll want to kick yourself. Like, how did I ever believe that? So the thing I want to say about the app, once you buy the app, you got the app, that's it. There's a one pop-up. It shows up once every 24 hours. It says, would you like to subscribe for 99 cents? You do not have to subscribe. You can exit out immediately and it's gone. Okay. It only shows up once a day. You don't have to watch an ad. You don't have to do anything. It's only for the people that want to support me more, that wake up every day and grab their phone to see what the new video is every single day.
And I think it's worth it. I mean, if you build
it's totally worth it, but I want to tell people, if you hate flat earth, don't subscribe until you get to that point, until you're at the point where like, wow, I love this. I could afford 99 cents, or you could do $11 for the year, but you still get everything. All right. So don't think that I'm hiding it, and take the challenge, and you too. It's so life-changing. I haven't been bored for a split second in 5 years. I know who I am. I know where I am. I'm figuring out this world. Thank God I love roller coasters and puzzles, because we are in the biggest puzzle on the hugest roller coaster right now. And absolutely. And there's nothing to be afraid of. And Flat Earth teaches you all of this. So that's why Flat Earth matters. It's not the shape that matters. It's who we are, where we are, and
it's empowering yourself once again, understanding,
finding out your true origins, finding out, appreciating the creation that is here for us.
Wow. David, thank you. Do you want to give your social media handles?
You can find the Facebook page, which I'm not so active on, is the flatearthpodcast.com, Flat Earth Podcast on Facebook. Also, we have a podcast. We haven't put out a lot of episodes, but there's some great episodes, a lot of episodes lately. It's called The Flat Earth Podcast, available on iTunes, SoundCloud, any podcast player will find it. Just The Flat Earth Podcast. If you have a show of yours, you have your own show and you'd want to have me on and drill me with your hardest questions, info@theflatearthpodcast.com. And we can start a discussion just like Dave and I did. And here we are. And again, the Flat Earth, Sun, Moon, and Zodiac Clock app by Blue Water Bay. Easy to do. And Dave, you'll include a link for the app.
Okay. Thank you, Dave. I appreciate it. I'm going to stop recording right now.
Thanks.
1 sec.